So if you're one of those people who are really passionate about a wide range of issues, but you find that you often are bumping into frustration when you're trying to tell other people about them, or that it's even starting to cost you friendships and relationships, or if you find yourself getting in fights online a lot, this episode is for you. So I want to be clear, I'm not picking a side here, and I'm not trying to say something is good or bad or right or wrong. I'm just using an example from my own life because I'd prefer to do that than, pull things from people I know or from popular culture or anything like that. But gosh, it's been 20 plus years now. But a long, long time ago, I was a very vocal, very militant vegan. Now I live in West Texas. There were not any other vegans out here. This is like the middle of cattle country. It's a very conservative meat-eating place, we'll say. So I encountered a whole lot of resistance to being vegan, and I don't know that it bothered me at the time. I think that I probably actually liked that. But one thing I noticed is that with my veganism and with other issues that I cared about, with other causes and things like that, I was very, very vocal, and I pushed them and I pushed them, and I really just kind of categorized people according to how they responded to those causes. Like what they thought about those causes were the box I put them in, is the label I put on them. Man, the thing was, is I'm not against veganism. I animal welfare and all of that, like factory farming. There's no way around the fact that some of that is pretty horrific. A lot of the things that I used to believe in, I still believe in. I have just found that there's not a lot of good in pushing them on people in a way where you can't have a conversation or where you actually turn them against that cause. I do see that happen a lot. And this has gotten a lot worse these days, because one of the really strange and unfortunate and even scary things the internet has done for us is that it has created a bunch of echo chambers where we can go and we can find a bunch of people who agree with us, and we don't get the kind of pushback that we used to get from the community and from people around us. In retrospect, I can say having people push back on me in a healthy way, having people push back on me, asking questions about different things or educating me about some of the things I was wrong about, that was really, really good for me, because at least I had to get other sources of information. I had to sift them. These days, one thing I find is that we're really able to just kind of dive into whatever we believe. And the second you do, I don't care what you believe, you can believe the most jackass philosophy on the face of the planet. And you can find thousands of people who will believe it with you. And they're in forums and they're already there in their shirts, and you can be part of a club. That makes it really hard to change. But I don't know. It's scary to me the way that we're kind of separating as a culture and separating as a society, because we're all getting into our little echo chambers and we don't even have to deal with the other side. One of the really scary things this does is that impersonal contact with people who disagree with us, who are different than us, tends to increase prejudice. It tends to make us feel like we're more right than we are. And we're just going to keep on dividing. And so today, just what I want to talk about is how you can be passionate about things, how you can care, but how you can also recognize that the things you care about may not be the things other people care about. They may believe differently than you, but at the very bare minimum, your issues, the things that you think matter most, not everybody's going to agree with that, and that's okay. The other thing that I see happening with the internet and all the different, social media and all that, is that the idea of main character syndrome is probably not just becoming more pronounced, it's becoming the norm. The number of people I talk to who have a hard time seeing other people's points of view, understanding that other people might have a different point of view than theirs. The number of people I talk to who have that mentality has been increasing over the years. I remember toward the tail end of my counseling career, one of the things that pushed me out of therapy, did actually, let me rephrase that. It did not push me out of therapy. It just made me realize that, okay, things are changing in a way that are not real adapted to who I am and the way I work. That's why coaching is such a better fit for me. But I do remember toward the tail end of it, talking to a young woman who was dealing with, horrific anxiety, fighting with her parents all the time, fighting with her brother all the time, fighting with people at school, fighting with her friends. And she'd moved into a certain political ideology that was, and she was moving more and more the direction she had found, and she was becoming more militant about it. And I remember talking to her one time and just kind of trying to poke at that a little bit, just to say well, do you understand that, other people have different opinions and that they're allowed to share them the same way you are? And she looked me dead in the eyes and she said, having to hear an opinion different than my own is a form of violence. And man, there haven't been many things that somebody has said that stopped me in my tracks and I didn't quite know what to say. But that was one of them, because my first thought was that, wow, if this if this is violence to you, you've never seen violence. You have no concept of what violence actually is. And people who do, God dang, they would probably be thrilled for the worst form of violence they experience to be somebody disagreeing with them. But the second thing I thought was like, man, well, why is there any reason to have conversations then? Like, why should I bother here? Why should anybody bother? And I don't know what happened to her. We ended up going our separate ways, agreeably, and there was no blow up or anything. But I don't know what happened there, but I have to assume that if something didn't change, then she's probably continued on a path, and I would assume she has to be surrounded by people who very much agree with her, since people disagreeing with her is something she can't really tolerate. And I don't know, that's a scary place to be as people. That's a fragility that worries me. And I hate talking about this kind of shit, because I'm 47 years old. I don't want to become like this grumpy old man, and I don't think I am. This is to me, this is not about people need to toughen up and bootstraps, and I've said this on other episodes, but for me what it's about is that for a person to live in a world where they can't tolerate an opinion different than their own, where they think that their causes and the things they believe in are the most objectively important things on the planet and everybody should fall in line, like that is such a brittle stance to take. Like it's not going to take much for that to break. And so when somebody knows that it's going to break, they're going to dodge around anything that could break it. And that's going to keep them from encountering other ideas. Like it really was one of the best things that happened to me was people pushing back on my ideas. And some people would do it like nicely, well, why not eat meat? And we'd have a discussion about it, and I'd explain my side, they'd explain theirs. Through some of my political beliefs have shifted over the years. I'm still not super far from where I was, but starting to read history and engaging books that presented a different perspective from what I believed, and talking to people who were older than me, talking to people from other countries, that was huge. Meeting people who had lived through different things was really shocking and eye-opening for me, and it was so helpful. But if I had had this idea that I'm right, and everybody should believe what I believe, and I cannot tolerate any kind of dissent or differing opinion, and the internet had been around the way it is now, and I could have just found little groups of people who just reinforced my beliefs, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And I'm afraid my world would be much more narrow than it is now. And I'm afraid I'd be much more fragile. And I don't want that for anybody. The other thing I see is that these people who have these ideologies that they cannot see around, that they think are the ultimate end-all be-all, these people live in a place of frustration and anxiety and anger, and they feel like the whole world's against them. They feel like it's me and my little group of friends, and it's us against everybody, and you can all go to hell. That's a hard place to live, and I'm watching more and more relationships be disrupted by this. I'm watching more and more like families separated over it, and I want to be clear, like as a therapist, I have helped a couple different people go no contact with their truly toxic, truly abusive, truly horrific families. I'm not the person that says family is forever and blood comes before all else. I'm not that guy, but a lot of the things I see people separating from their families over, there's other ways. Like these are not things that you necessarily have to not have contact with the people who raised you over. So here's something I'd like to encourage you to try. I want you to think of all the pressing issues in the world. Like there are so many now. The ones that come to mind immediately are things like, right now what comes to mind is immigration, global warming, racism, animal rights is still a thing, war, poverty, food insecurity. Just think about how many things are, and you can keep breaking these down to more and more nuanced levels. You can, and then there's like these things off to the side that like not many people know about, who some people are really, really passionate about. Man, I saw some people on the side of the road that had signs and they had blood on them, and they were like, I think like anti-circumcision. I didn't even know that was a movement. I didn't know that was a thing. And so there's plenty of causes out there. There's plenty of causes out there. And I'd like you to just think of yours. Think of the thing you believe in, the thing that matters the most to you, the thing that you're the hill you're willing to die on, and look at how you got there. Maybe it's culture, maybe it's social pressure, maybe it's your own personal history, maybe you saw something as a kid that sparked that in you, maybe it's your friend group, maybe it's the subreddits you frequent. There's a bunch of things. If you've gone to college, you're going to have a set of things. If you haven't gone to college, you're going to have another set of things. But just take a moment and trace down how these issues became your issues, and you'll recognize that it's very personal, that there's a profoundly personal aspect to them of what drew you to them. And I mean, for the most part, the issues I talk to people about, they're coming from a place of compassion. They're coming from a place of caring. And so I'm sure you are too. But when you after you've kind of drilled down into that and recognize why they matter to you, see if you can apply that to everybody else. Like at some point, we all kind of have to take moments where we step out of being the main character of our own lives, being the protagonist of our own lives, and see where other people are coming from. And you'll recognize that the things they believe in and the things that they're invested in, first of all, they're as important to them as yours are to you. They probably make as much sense as yours do. And it makes it a lot harder to have this like universal obligation to all believe in the same things. You know, like, and like I want to be super clear about this. Like, I'm not a person who thinks all causes are equal. I'm not the person that thinks that everything is right. Like, oh, you have your truth and I have my truth. I kind of think a lot of that's bullshit. And I think that to some extent we do need to get to a place where we can say this is right, this is wrong. But there's a lot of nuance in there, and like nuance will get you massacred these days in any kind of discussion. I have it happen often where I'll be talking to somebody and we'll be agreeing about something, but when I offer some nuance, when I say I can see that, but man, I wish they wouldn't do this, or I wish they wouldn't approach it this way. You just see that kind of like wall go up when that just veil kind of come down between you, and you just kind of tell the conversation is slowly dying after that. But that's why I'm bringing this up, because when we're all so tied in and just cemented into the things that we believe, it makes it where we can't have these discussions, and it pushes this place where eventually all we have left are the people who agree with us. And that is just such a fragile, stupid place to be, because none of us have all the answers. If you're young and you're watching this, what you believe and what you're invested in, no matter how much you disbelieve what I'm about to tell you, it's going to change and evolve over the years. As your life circumstances changes, as new things come into your life, you're going to change and evolve. If you're older, you can look back and you will see the things that have changed. You will see how you have shifted and evolved and how life circumstances have changed what you believe. I'm not saying you shouldn't stand for something. I believe all of us should have things we stand for. When I meet somebody who doesn't stand for anything, I don't really know what to talk to them about. I don't know how to invest in them or trust them. It's like, well, shit, like what are you about if you don't have anything? But we also have to be able to hold it out in front of us like this, where we are able to have discussions about it and we're able to understand that other people have different perspectives. If you hold a perspective that you are afraid of being questioned, there's a really good chance it's fragile. And like if it can't stand up to questioning, I don't know that you should base your life around it for sure. I know this isn't easy these days. It's not what social media wants from us. It's not what the news wants from us. It's not what any of the different platforms and all the different algorithms. They don't want you to be nuanced. They don't want you to put yourself in other people's shoes. They want you to find your thing, drill into it, and then click on the links associated with it so they'll get money, and then the links want you to buy whatever they're trying to sell you, the t-shirt or the hat or the bumper sticker or whatever. But the more that you can be pragmatic and the more that you can take a step back and just look at what you believe, the better off you're going to be. It's going to make it less fragile, which is going to make you more secure in your beliefs. But the other thing it's going to do that I found over the years is that when I stopped pushing things on people, when I stopped like being evangelical about everything, people actually asked me about it. And instead of like trying to get people to join me, I had people, it kind of attracted people to where I'm at. And that's a much better way to do it. And it actually puts you in a position where you could change things. I think that there's so many people these days. I see it in comments on some of my videos. I see it in comments on other videos for sure, where it's like, they are clearly not there to change anybody's mind. They are there to like throw a Molotov cocktail into it and then get all these responses. Like, it's vanity. They're there for themselves. They're saying they're there for a cause, but it's really about them. So the next time you're going into a difficult discussion or a place where people disagree with you, ask yourself, do you want to be right and do you want to be noticed? Or do you maybe actually want to make a difference for this cause you claim so much, or for this cause that you claim you love so much? And if you want to make an actual difference, the way to do that is through relationship and conversation. And it's not going to work on everybody. Some people you do just have to say, okay, cool, we're not compatible. But I think you'll find a whole lot more people in the world are more open to hearing what you have to say when you say it in a way that's not just, that doesn't trigger every negative emotion in them, in the same way that you'd be more likely to listen to them if they did the same for you. It's not easy because we like to believe what we believe, but the more time and energy you put into it, the easier it becomes. And it's kind of cool to see your own beliefs evolve, to see other people's beliefs evolve. and to get to a place where you're fully confident and secure in what you stand for, and then you don't really need all the bomb throwing and all the flaming and all the different things, because you're secure in where you are, and how other people respond just doesn't matter as much to you anymore.